In a situation where we do have hyperinflation, even on the scale of what the Weimar Republic had, to where there were 12 marks of the dollar in 1918 to 1923 was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't not 4.2 trillion marks of the dollar?
Well, I know this. Zimbabwe right now has 2 million% inflation per year. Let me get a comment from Bill or Pat on that, both of you.
Well, the caller is correct. If you're in debt and you have hyperinflation and you have some assets in other forms like gold, silver, land, or some kind of commodity that's desirable, then absolutely you're a beneficiary of hyperinflation, at least in the short term, because you can sell those assets and pay off your debt for, in effect, pennies on the dollar. In fact, one of the motives and one of the reasons that inflation is not purely a bad thing is because the United States is a heavy debtor nation right now. So as the dollar devalues because we print more and more of it up, we're in effect paying off foreign creditors for a lesser amount. So there is a silver lining to it in a sense.
But our balance of trade isn't good, so it's going to be a worldwide wrecking ball to economies.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, long term,
China's not going to put up with. They're not going to put up with this much longer. Somebody is going to cut the dollar loose, and then they're all going to fall within a matter of months.
It's already starting to happen. Oh God!
And I think both Pat and I agree with the caller that commodities, gold and silver, are a great investment. It's just a horrible thing to base a monetary system on.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and people get confused by that. I got emails when you were on a few weeks ago going, I thought you said gold's good. Yes, we're saying gold's good. We're saying, though, it is too easy to manipulate as the currency, or having something based on that as the currency, because the elite know it's valuable. They've been hoarding the daylights out of it.
There's this interesting editorial in the London Times right after Lincoln instituted greenback dollars, which, of course, was a totally fiat currency, but since he couldn't borrow money to pursue the Civil War, he had to essentially use the old-fashioned way that the colonial America did. That's just print fiat currency, and it worked great. But the bankers didn't like it. This was their editorial in the London Times shortly thereafter. If this mischievous financial policy, which has its origin in North America, shall become indurated down to a fixture, then the government will furnish its own money without cost. It will pay off debts and be without debt. It will have all the money necessary to carry on its commerce. It will become prosperous without precedent in the history of the world. The brains and wealth of all countries will go to North America. That country must be destroyed, or it will destroy every monarchy on the globe.
Yeah, that's a famous quote. I mean, they cannot allow you to be free, ladies and gentlemen, or our nation to be free. You're absolutely right, Bill. And in fact, I've got an article here. The global economy is at the point of maximum danger. London Telegraph today. They say it feels like the summer of 1931. The world's two biggest financial institutions have had a heart attack. The global currency system is breaking down. The policy doctrines that got us into this mess are bankrupt. No world leader seems to be able to discern the problem, let alone forge a solution. I mean, when the mainstream media knew we were in this crisis a year ago, 2 years ago, they've just been forestalling the inevitable. And I heard one of you earlier kind of imply that, well, they'll just give us a soft landing by doing this. I don't see it as a soft landing. I mean,
they see that as their job, to try to soften the blow as much as possible. There is not going to be a soft landing. Make no mistake, we are going down a rat hole economic whirlwind that cannot be stopped. The only thing that can stop it is the Monetary Reform Act. Is merely having Congress issue the money and bringing the fractional reserve system up to zero into 100% reserves.
But the elite won't. The elite won't allow that because that would get rid of their power.
Right. They'll fight it tooth and nail. They will fight it. All you have to do is read what happened during the time of Jackson, how they deliberately crashed the American economy just to try to bring the political pressure on the president. The president held firm and he beat them.
In fact, they even tried to get the South to revolt that first time. But luckily, he was a Southerner, so he could threaten them and explain to them how they were being conned. But they were not as savvy in the South a few decades later.
Well, that's correct. And of course, the division of the United States was an absolute necessity because the country is getting too rich.
Yeah, Britain didn't like that. Pat, Can you elaborate on the best case scenario if we had good people at the helm, what they would do now to extricate ourselves from this certain financial doom?
Well, again, the way the system's set up at the moment, under the Federal Reserve Act and so forth, there's no way out. There'd have to be monetary reform legislation. And, the essence of it would have to be that the government creates the money rather than private banks. So you're talking about, it's just unavoidable, as Bill mentioned, you'd have to reform the Federal Reserve Act and take this power back under the aegis of the government. Otherwise, ultimately, what we're doing is what American individuals have done privately. They've maxed out their credit cards, and the American government, by borrowing so much money in the midst of maintaining a war and so on, has simply run us so far into debt and borrowed so much money that the dollar's collapsed. So they would have to reverse those policies. And at the present time, I have not heard a single government representative propose anything that would cure the present problem. That's not on the table anywhere. So it's shows like this that have to educate the American people to generate at least, the kind of demand I mentioned that did arise in the 30s. After all, when people get poorer and poorer, they want to understand why, and they begin educating themselves about it. And then when they understand what's going on, then they want the right remedies.
I'll tell you what's going on. The real world is hitting us upside the head like a 2x4. And this is only the start. You need to get the DVD. It's available right now at Infowars.com. It's the Money Masters, 3+ hours on one DVD. It is the preeminent film on the private Federal Reserve. It is such an easy film to watch. I can say it's great and entertaining and powerful. No, it's edifying. It really, it's just so well done. And it's, talk about Renaissance men, or I don't know, what's the term for just doing it out of the gates? Perfect, first film they make, excellent film. Classic. You need to have it revised, updated, Infowars.com, or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. And it has the Monetary Reform Act at the end of the film. You can also get that at themoneymastersdocumentaryinterview.com. Go there and get the Monetary Reform Act, and also copies of the Money Masters, or at Infowars.com, the Money Masters. You can also call toll-free to get the Money Masters, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or write to me, Alex Jones, at 3001 South Lamar, Suite 100, Austin, Texas, 78704. Last time, I don't think we even took calls. This time we're taking calls first. Then later in the next hour, we're getting into all the issues they want to cover and other facets of history and ways to protect yourselves and their take on things. Let's go to Steve in Ohio. You're on the air with Pat Carmack and Bill Still. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, Alex?
Good.
Hey, with this carbon tax, does this sound like the superpowers are trying to control industrial growth of third world countries?
Well,
maybe kill the competition, so to speak.
Not just that; it's us first. Shut down the middle class. They state it. So your common sense is what Club of
the
Rome.
Manufacturing industrial jobs are gone in this country, no doubt about it.
Well, they want that last 20% gone. This is predatory, monopoly, crony capitalism that we are discussing. Let me get a comment from Pat and Bill on that.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. This whole Kyoto carbon tax thing is aimed a dagger square at the heart of America. That's what it's all about.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. They state it. It's not like... I want new listeners to understand something. They've declared their hatred and their enmity and their wanton destruction of us, just like earlier Bill read that quote. Bill, read that quote again where they said we got to destroy the free market system of the U.S. We've got to destroy their own government issuing the currency. If this is allowed to happen, it's all over.
Sure. This was an editorial in the London Times. It was right after Lincoln instituted greenback money, which is basically government-issued money, just like we propose. This is what it said, quote, "If this mischievous financial policy, which has its origin in North America, shall become indurated," which means perpetuated, down to a fixture, "then the government will furnish its own money, oh gosh, without cost. It will pay off debts and be without debt." Oh my goodness. It will have all the money necessary to carry on its commerce. It will become prosperous without precedent in the history of the world. The brains, the wealth of all countries will go to North America. That country must be destroyed, or it will destroy every monarchy on the globe.
So they financed the war between the states. They tried it in the 1830s and failed, but got what they wanted just 25 years later. Gentlemen, we will be back in just 70 seconds for the fourth and final hour. Everybody stay locked in on the local AM and FM dial, global shortwave, satellite, and the internet at prisonplanet.com. Don't forget, you can still visit the old Prison Planet site updated daily at classic.prisonplanet.com.